I'm here with some fellow New Jerseyans to talk about an issue that's been driving Americans up the wall for years. Unwanted, terribly disruptive, annoying, obnoxious, sometimes harassing, and illegal robocalls. In March of 2019 alone, telemarketers and robocallers placed 5.2 billion illegal calls nationwide, including over 134 million in New Jersey. That's 13 calls per person on average. Robocallers don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They don't care if you're a student or a business leader, a police officer, a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, or a U.S. senator. They do not care if you're eating breakfast, working out in the gym, or in my case, in the middle of a foreign policy briefing. These robocallers care about one thing: ripping you off. And the American people are sick and tired of it. Increasingly, these scam artists are using sophisticated spoofing technology to hide who they are and flout the law to get around the federal do not call registry. It's happened to all of us. It happens to me. When I get a phone call from a number that shares my area code and exchange, I'm always tempted to pick it up, thinking it might be a family friend or a local leader. Instead, it's a spoofed call, some automated garbage about junk health insurance or a vacation resort that doesn't exist, or one that I'm really, so tired of. Hi, this is Cindy. I'm calling about your student loan, which I haven't had for decades. In any event, someone in my office actually got a spoof call on his cell phone from his own number. I'm sure he's not alone. It seems like these scams are growing more malicious by the day. There are hackers who pretend to represent a big company like Apple and convince people to hand over their passwords to their computers. There are scam artists who pretend to be the local police department, threatening you with jail time if you don't pay a fake parking ticket. And especially around tax time, there are robocallers who claim to be the IRS, but are really on a mission to steal your identity and run off with your hard-earned tax refund. The harassment, the interruptions, the invasions of privacy just keep getting worse, and today's regulations just aren't keeping up. And to make matters worse, in recent years, we've seen court rulings undermine Obama-era regulations aimed at stopping some of the most egregious abuses like mass auto dialing. One of the biggest challenges we face is that our current laws were designed to punish legitimate telemarketing companies that sometimes make mistakes or break the rules. What we need are tougher laws to go after the scam artists who don't play by the rules in the first place, and better protections for consumers constantly bombarded by these calls. That's why I've co-sponsored a piece of legislation that will close loopholes in our telemarketing laws, stop the harassment, and give law enforcement a better shot at catching the fraudsters flooding our phone lines. The Telephone Robocall Abuse Criminal Enforcement and Deterrence Act, or TRACED Act, is a bipartisan bill that I'm pleased to say has a real shot at becoming law. It just passed the Senate Commerce Committee earlier this week, and it has broad support, with 44 Senate Republicans and Democrats signed on, and 54 state and territory attorneys general, including New Jersey's own Gubir Grewal, backing the bill. The TRACED Act has three key elements to tackle the scourge of robocalls. Number one is authentication. Our legislation requires phone companies to adopt the necessary technology to verify the legitimacy Hello? Hello?
This is a friendly reminder. Your vehicle's factory warranty may have expired. We have been trying to reach you through the mail and have been unsuccessful. Your vehicle is at risk of not being covered. Please press 1 to speak with an advisor now. Again, please press 1 to speak with someone regarding this matter. Please press 2 if you would like to be placed on our do not call list.
You planned that, didn't you?
Did you plan?
No. I left my phone on. As I told our other guests here, I left my phone on and said, if it rings and if it's one of those, then we'll play it out loud. I get this all the time. And I assure you I could not plan it. with what I'm proposing, they wouldn't want me to do anything for them. In any event, this has three key elements. Sometimes God is good. Three key elements to the scourge of robocalls. Number one is authentication. As I said, our legislation requires phone companies to adopt the necessary technology to verify the legitimacy of calls before our phones even start ringing. The FCC has been working with the telecommunications industry to implement this technology on a voluntary basis. But we need a firm deadline and a clear mandate consumers can count on. Secondly, the bill dramatically ramps up enforcement. We lift the statute of limitations from 1 to 3 years so that investigators at the FCC have more time to catch illegal robocallers. In addition, we direct federal agencies to work with states' attorney generals to prosecute telemarketing scammers. And finally, when these illegal robocallers do get caught, they're going to face a fine of up to $10,000 per call. When you consider that these robocallers are being dialed by the hundreds every second, we're talking about a serious financial deterrent. For years now, robocalls have been one of the top issues that New Jerseyans have contacted my office about. And after sending letter after letter to various agencies demanding tougher enforcement and relief for consumers, it's clear that today's laws just aren't cutting it. We need to catch, prosecute, and punish robocallers who make a living ripping off consumers. We need big phone companies to adopt the technology we know can stop spoof calls in their tracks. Simply put, we need to take action to end the scourge of robocalls, and that means we need the majority leader to bring the Traced Act to the floor of the Senate. Americans shouldn't have to feel a sense of dread every time they hear their phone ring. It's time to bring our telemarketing laws into the 21st century and pass the Traced Act. And to talk about this for some real-life people, we're going to start off with Frank Ambrosio. He owns Cafe Margarita downstairs. If you're ever hanging here, I invite you to. It's got good food and great coffee in the Gateway Center, and he has experienced his share of harassing robocalls. Frank?
I'm basically, I've been through, all of us are in the same boat with this scams. I mean, I deal with a lot of people in the building throughout the day, and I get at least a dozen, to 20 calls a day, and I have to stop every time because I'm thinking it's one of my clients calling from the building. They would like to order some kind of, catering order or whatnot. It's just becoming a really harassment, and a lot of times they'll say scam likely right on there, or other times I've had an experience with. I'll answer it, or I won't answer it, and I'll say I can't talk right now. And next thing you know, I'm getting into a text message with somebody else asking me, "Who are you? Why are you calling me?" So apparently they have somebody else's number somehow, and it's like going, to the other on the other end. So it's becoming to be a real issue with me and my business, being a small owner. So I'm glad this has come to this. Debbie has spoken to me about a year ago, and I was hoping, we can get to this. Because this is very annoying for everyone, especially when you're driving. The numbers are so similar. The 917 numbers. You think it's a family friend or whatnot. So I hope that we all can come together and trying to stop these types of calls, so everybody can be free from all of this. So I just want to thank the senator for having me to speak today, and hopefully we can resolve this matter.
Frank, can you spell your last name?
Yes, it's Ambrosio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's lunchtime, close to lunchtime, so Frank is going to have to leave us, but you can catch him downstairs at Cafe
sorry.
Margarita if you want.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Let me ask Larry Franco from Somerset, who's reached out to our office to complain about unwanted phone calls many times. Larry?
Thank you, Senator. And good morning, everybody. I'm a 75-year-old pediatrician, immunologist, infectious disease specialist who's practiced in the academic world almost 50 years. I've been all over the United States as a teacher, a researcher, a clinician, and indeed traveled to many countries. So I never know when a caller is going to be one of my former patients or a colleague who wants to ask me a question about a patient. Therefore, I just can't ignore my calls. I have a cell phone and a home phone, and both phones get these calls. Sometimes I get 15 or 16 calls a day on the two phones. I've reached out to the New Jersey Attorney General's office, to the township, Franklin Township Police, to Verizon, and to AT&T, and really to no avail. So I reached out to Senator Menendez in early 2017 to see what could be done. And I'm really delighted that he and his colleagues are progressing to try to help everybody, all of us, with this very annoying and life-interfering experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Finally, let me Sergeant from Irvington and runs a nonprofit helping homeless veterans and has been inundated with these illegal calls.
Well, good morning, everybody. I have to answer my phone, okay? Because my phone is a business phone, and I can get calls all hours of the night and day because, you know, I'm here to help our veterans. So I can get calls from all over the states and even some that are not in the states. So I never know when to answer the phone, when not to answer the phone. If we have vets in crisis or homeless or whatever the case may be, I'm there to help. So I have to answer the phone, but getting phone calls telling me that, you know, my student loans, they can help me with my student loans. I don't have any student loans. I love the one where they call me up and tell me that my Microsoft Windows, Word, or whatever is in jeopardy, considering my computer runs on Linux. So, I mean, it's really hard, you know, trying to decipher which calls not to answer. So I'm glad this bill is trying to go through, and it'll help a lot of people because it's very annoying.